What's going on, guys? Welcome to Pam Unfiltered, the spot where we spill the hottest celeb tea, break down and review all the reality TV chaos, get real about the latest trending news, and of course, so much more. So let's get into it. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Pam Unfiltered. This is episode 3 of Love is Blind, season 10. So let's get into it. So we are back where we left off in episode 2, and that is Big Daddy and Amber meeting. And when the doors split, Amber looks like she is not attracted to Big Daddy. Big Daddy's like, oh my God, I hit the jackpot. Oh my God, this girl is smoking. And she's like, he is so excited. He gets on one knee. He is stumbling. I mean, the ring was upside down. He flips it back and he's like, will you marry me? And she's so quiet. She goes, yes. And then he gets up, he's kissing her. They go to her quarters, I think. Did they go to her quarters or his quarters? I don't remember. But you could just tell that she's a little bit off on the way he looks, which I personally don't think he looks that bad. I really don't. Again, I think he's like 230. So if he lost like 30 pounds, can you imagine, like, if you just look at his, just here in his face, can you imagine what he would look like with a cut jawline and not too much going on up here? Because when you, like, again, you look at him, he's not that big. He really isn't. So, and he already had mentioned in the pods that, he slacked on working out. So he isn't happy the way he looks. And if he was to change that and lose weight, girl, you got you a winner chicken dinner on your hands. Just give it a try. You guys emotionally connected. You're looking for somebody. And the reason why you're on Love is Blind, because you want to look beyond looks on your end and his end. So even though your initial attraction is there, let it grow. Let it grow. Because, girl, you might not find too many men who's going to be accepting of you having a daughter. I'm just saying. Okay. So now we meet a batch of new people, honey. So we meet Mr. Devontae and Brittany. But we first initially meet Brittany, and they say, like, why are you here? She's like, well, like, I'm looking for love. And she's like, I bought my wedding dress on sale and now I just have no choice. I need to find a husband. But then we get Devontae and Brittany in the pods, and he's like telling her, he's like, I want my wife to know everything about me. And what is one of the first things you noticed about me? And she says, like, I noticed the way you talk was kind of nerdy. And then they chuckled, and he was like, I think we're all nerdy on something that we love. And I was like, I totally agree, because I'm a nerd and I want someone to accept my nerdiness. Like, I'm nerdy about a whole bunch of things. Like, I love fantasy stuff. Like, I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, huge Star Wars fan. I'm nerdy when it comes to, like, formulating bath and body products. Like, I know a lot about that. I can create pretty much everything outside of deodorant or sunscreen. I'm nerdy when it comes to makeup. I know I'm very knowledgeable makeup. If you get me talking about makeup, I can really run down things of makeup. So I understand what he means by that. And she says, yes, I could be nerdy all day when it comes to labor and delivery. That's where she works. And she said that people ask her all the time, like, how can you do that job? How can you stare at nasty vaginas all day? And she's like, because I'm helping someone give birth. And I'm like, why would you even ask somebody who works in a department that? Because giving birth is major. A lot of people die from giving birth. So if you have someone like her in your corner while you giving birth, and 9 times out of 10, probably you will have a successful birth. I just think that was wild to even say something like that to her. So then the conversation goes deep, right? And then he says, I have to let you know that, production pulled me to the side the other day, and they told me that my grandfather passed. And she's just so remorseful. She's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And he was just like, that he was kind of like, he wanted to go home. But then he talked to his father and he talked to his grandmother, and they said, stay there, because your grandfather would have wanted you to find the one person for you. So he decided to stay. But at any time that he feels like he's going to leave, he's going to leave. And she is saying that she agrees with him. She's like, listen, if that's what you have to do, then I can't just be, I can't be but supportive, and you would just have to leave. So that's the end of their date. And then we get Alex and Ashley. Now we haven't seen Alex and Ashley since the first episode, right? But we get Alex in his confessional, and he was saying that a biggest part of relationship for a man is to be open and emotional, and how it's really hard for a man to be emotional with a partner, which I wholeheartedly agree. For the most part, I think a lot of men are taught, and I'm not even talking about father wise, if you have a father in your life. I don't think a lot of fathers say, oh, you got to be a man, you can't show emotion. I think it's society telling a man that they cannot be emotional. That's where I feel like they get it from, right? So then we get him and Ashley on their date, and he starts to talk about his soccer career in his past. He's like, yeah, I'm a soccer coach. However, in the past, when I was younger, I wanted to play soccer professionally. And he said that he had got an injury during the times there was a draft. Now the drafts conference is in California, but he couldn't make it because he was injured. So he stayed in school where it was in North Carolina, and he was surrounded by his teammates. So he said he was sitting there and he was watching the game. I mean, watching the conference, the game. He was watching the conference, and he said that, before the injury, he was top 5. Then he tried to humble himself, and he was like top 10. And I'm like, you're a little cocky one, aren't you? So then after that, so he said that he listened to the people get called, and he said that he heard his friend get called, and everybody was so excited. Everybody was so geared up. He says his teammates was like, yo, let's go out. Let's go practice. Let's do this. And they got up and they left, and he was by himself. And he said he felt some sort of way about that. Like, you're not my real friends. Why y'all just didn't stay? Wait till my name get called and then go. And I'm just like, is it really that serious? I personally don't think it's that serious. Like, whatever. Like, where's your family? Why is your family not there when you were getting drafted? Because that's what all mattered to me, not them. But he says, oh, he realized that they weren't his true friends, that they were only friends with him because he plays soccer. And I was like, all right, red flag number 2 about you being cocky. You being a little too cocky. So then he said he was eventually drafted, I think like number 24 or something like that. So he said when he was drafted, he got drafted to a team. He said his 4th surgery came up. And when his 4th surgery came up, the company that he was working with said, up, you will no longer play soccer. And that was the end of his soccer career. And I guess that's when he decided to transition into being a soccer coach and really just trying to understand as an athlete that he won't be playing professionally. I don't know about y'all, but I don't know. It kind of gives him, maybe he got a little bit of anger problems. Even though he doesn't show that, he seems like really, really calm, but I don't know. A lot of athletes who don't become professional athletes due to an injury have some sort of like anger festering. And I don't know if maybe he has that going on. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not too sure. But I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna keep an eye out on him because I don't know. Even though he's fine as hell, there's something about him that's off. So now so now we come back to Tyler and the Kevin situation. We get Kevin going into the quarters, and he's talking to Big Daddy, and he's like, yo, I was just like, this date didn't really go so well. I was trying to express my feelings. She cut me off. She ended everything, and she just like walked out. And then you get Tyler going into the confessionals, and she's like, we're done. She was like, I choose me. I want somebody who's 100% sure of me. And then she walks out, and she kind of like goes into a room with a producer, and everybody's like, what the is going on here? So then it cuts to her, and the producer's talking to her, and they're like, she's like, well, I'm leaving. If he's not sure for me, then I'm leaving. He's like, the producer's like, well, don't you do that all the time? Like, aren't you a runner? And she's like, yeah. She's like, but I don't want to be with somebody who's not sure, 100% sure for me. And he was like, but did he say that though? Did he say he wanted to choose Kia, or was he expressing his feelings? And she's like, well, no, he didn't say that. And then she started to like really think and knew that she was overreacting. He's like, well, you still got time on this date. So like, what you want to do? And so then it cuts to her coming out of that room into the quarters, and she's like, redo. And Priyanka is like, what? What's going on? Like Emma and Priyanka's her ace boon coon, and but Priyanka was like, "What's going on? What's happening?" So then she leaves and she goes back into the pod, and her and Kevin's like, "Thank you for coming back," and then they kind of apologize about the situation, and that she said that she was like I guess overly emotional, and he was just telling her like I really just wanted to express my feelings to you about how I feel about you and how I feel about Kia. And she was just saying like what do you need to get to the point where you're going to make this decision? And he was like, I need safety, I need what did he say? Hold on, cuz I got to hear. Hold on. He said he needs comfortability. He needs to be comfortable. He needs to be safe, and he needs that fire. And then he reassures his feelings for her. But then she says, listen, what I need is, and what I want for us to do is I need you to make your decision way before it's time for the date to be proposed. And I need us to lock in. I want to be able to have time where it's just me and you and there's no other distractions. I need for you to make that decision. And he's like, okay, I understand. And he realized that he has to really think and choose who he's going to pick. Is it going to be Kia or is going to be Tyler? But then it cuts to Tyler going back into the quarters. Kia's in the kitchen getting like some juice or whatever she's doing. And she apologized to Kia. She's like, I'm sorry. That was just like way overreacted. I'm sorry that I did that to you back there, whatever, whatever. And it's just something about Kia. I don't like, you guys. I just don't like her. All right, y'all. So I'm going to freeze this right here real quick because I can't believe that I forgot to mention this in the recap. So when Tyler comes into the quarters, she's really, really emotional about what just went down with her and Kevin. She kind of goes towards the back of the quarters and then she asks Kia to come here. And she's like, he chooses you. He's a really, really good man. He's a really good husband. But then it cuts to Kia in the confessionals and the producers ask her like, how do you feel about it? And she's just like, oh, I guess she says like it's a lot, but then she chuckles, like she kind of like smirks and chuckles a little bit, but she catches herself, she composes herself again, and then she goes, the way Tyler feels and her emotions is so devastating. And I was just like, this woman is a lot. But then after that, they cut her walking away from Tyler, but then it cuts back to her in her confessionals, and she's like, she don't do the victim thing, and how Tyler is playing the victim card. We all know what we signed up for. And I'm telling y'all, this woman is calculated and she is cold. When she was chuckling about Tyler being emotional about the situation with Kevin, and she kind of like caught herself and composed herself, that just told me right then and there that this woman is not a good person at all. But all right, back to the recap and review. And she's like, oh, okay. She's like, do you want to hug it out? And then she gives like this fake ass hug and then walks away. And I'm just like, oh, Kia. Like, Tyler, please stop talking about your relationship with Kevin in the quarter so loudly. If you want to talk to Emma, you want to talk to Priyanka, and I think she's close to Amber too. If you want to talk to your girls, like, go quietly in the corner and talk about it. You don't have to be so loud. You don't have to, because even though Kia might not be in a room, Kia's friends could be in a room. So whatever you say, you know what I'm saying? They can go back and tell Kia. And sure enough, that's who did it? What's that girl's name? Alyssa. She did it, I don't think, at the end of this episode. I'm not gonna talk about it too much, but damn sure she went over to Kia and she was like, oh, so who's your person? And she was like, Kevin. And she's like, oh, Kevin. Okay. So you gotta be careful on you gotta be careful on what you talk about in that damn quarters. So now we get Brianna and Connor, I believe. And hold on. So now we get Brianna in the quarters and she's talking to the girls and she's telling them like she has a connection with Connor and Chris and what she's looking for. She wants everything. She wants everything she's looking for in a guy. She's hoping that's in either Chris or it's Connor. So then we get Connor and Brianna talking, and they're kind of talking about their past with their parents. Connor says, my dad coached me. I don't. Did he say what sport? I think he said football. Was it football? He said that his father coached him, and then he said he wants to coach his future son. And then Brianna goes, she said, "Well, my mother was my coach for cheerleading, and then she said my dad coached me in soccer." And he says, "Oh, he envisions like taking his family in a minivan." Hold up, hold up, hold up. This is 2026. Don't nobody use no mother effing minivan. Okay, you need to get you an SUV. And Brianna is feeling the same way. She's like, "Oh no, a minivan." She said, he's like, "Yes, a minivan." She said, "Well, then you're gonna be driving that minivan because you're not gonna catch me driving no minivan." I'm like, is this 1880s, 70s, 60s? Like, baby, if you don't you don't upgrade to a SUV like a Highlander or Escalade that got the multiple rows for the your kids and their friends. Like, oh no, we're not doing that. So then we get Brianna and Chris on their date, and he's asking her, "What are you wearing?" And she said, the girls say I look really good in orange. And he's like, "Well, what color?" She's like, "And what color are you wearing?" She's like, "Well, I so happen to be wearing orange." And he's like, "What are you wearing?" And she's like, "Well, I'm wearing a romper." And he was like, "You know what? I was going to say this," but then he goes into a story that he had with one of the other girl singles that he said they weren't a match. He said that, yeah, he said he weren't a match. And he said that they were talking. She's like, "Oh, you know what would be a perfect girl that you be matched with?" And he was like, "Don't tell me her name." And then she was like, "All right, I won't tell you your name, but I'll tell you what she's wearing." And he was like, what is she wearing?" She's wearing an orange romper. So then she's like, "No way." And then they start laughing and stuff like that. And then she's like, "Well, did you say that so you can kind of get an idea? Or you were trying to fish in like who would be your match, even if it wasn't her?" And he's like, no, yeah." She's like, "Yeah." And then they kind of brush it off. And then, you know, uh, what did they say? And then they just laughed it off. And then the conversation goes a little bit deeper. You know what I'm saying? And he goes and he talks about the quality of her. And the way he spoke to her about it was, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, it was a little off-putting to me. It was just like he was trying to save her and make her into a better person. I don't know. I just wasn't feeling that conversation. He was like that, he loves her independence, but he can take her up a level and really show her about emotions and be really, emotionally supportive of her, as a partner, and challenge her every day. And she's like, "Yes, I definitely need that," and blah, blah, blah. And she feels like in her previous relationships, even in her friendships, that she's always put out kind of like this masculine energy. And she says that she's tired of it. She's looking for her, her feminine era. She wants to be the woman in the relationship. She said with her friends, she's always the person who is like booking the trips and things like that. And she's just tired of it. She wants to be the person to sit back. And I completely understand that with her. So now we cut to a date with Chris and Jessica. And Chris is in his confessionals and he's kind of comparing the two, Brianna and Jessica. And he's saying, like, he loves the banter with Brianna, but there's just something that he really likes about Jessica. He was like that she's emotionally mature, but then he kind of brings up their age that, Jessica is 38. She's 6 years older than him, but then Brianna is younger than him. But then he said it doesn't matter. But I'm like, I think it does matter, because if it didn't matter, you wouldn't have brought it up. You get what I'm saying? But then it goes into their date. And I believe they started like kind of talking about their emotions. But then Jessica says, when it comes to this experiment, there's two hurdles that we have. The first hurdle is finding the person. And then the second hurdle is getting, emotionally connecting with the person and seeing that if they can go to another level. And she can only see that with him. Out of all the men that she's talked to, she only sees that with Chris, and he is super happy and he agrees with her. But then he also admits to her, he's He's like, listen, I have another connection. However, it's more like a bro relationship. Like it's a friendship. And I'm just like, wait, hold up. Hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up. If that's how you feel about Brianna, why didn't you say that in a previous date? Did you need Jessica to reassure you a little bit before you canceled it with Brianna? But it wouldn't matter because you only see friendship with her. So I don't understand why you're not just telling Brianna that and just cutting ties. That was just a little bit odd to me, right? So then the conversation goes a little bit deeper, right? And, Chris is reassuring his feelings for Jessica, and he's just like, I'm still in it. He said, I know that you're kind of like pretty much on the fence of children. If it happens, it happens. If it don't, it don't. And he said he feels the same way. If children are not in the cards with it, he's perfectly fine with it. And she just gets so happy that he feels like that. And then after that, they kind of go into a conversation. He kind of he's fishing to see what she looks like, but she's not giving him any kind of inkling on what she does. So now we get Alex and Ashley, but we get another montage, y'all, another montage of the couples, and it's Alex and Ashley, and in this montage, they're talking about their likes of books. She says that she likes crime thriller type of books. I do too, girl. And he says, "Oh, I think the Alchemist, the book The Alchemist will be perfect for you." She's like, "Oh my God, I read that book." And that's where they kind of connect. And then we cut to them. I believe that's when we cut to them in their actual pod date. And then he's talking to her about, he's like, we bonded on The Alchemist. And then, he's like, he like really enjoys talking to her. He's emotionally connected with her. He is falling in love with her. But then he gets down on his knee and he asks Ashley if she would marry him. And she says yes. So then we got the third couple, right? Yep, that's the third couple to be married. So now we get Connor and Emma in their pod date, and she's asking what he's wearing, and he's like, "Oh, I got on gray sweatpants." She's like, "Ooh, you got on gray sweatpants," and he's like, "Yo, like, what's the point of that? Like, why do girls say that?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, Connor, come into the new century. We like to see your wee print. That's what it means. God, Lee, come with the times." But then she says, "Oh, I can't wait to see your ass tat." He's like, "Are you just trying to talk to me and marry me because you want to see my ass tat?" And she's like, "Yeah." You know what I mean? And then um they talk about like them meeting each other and will they be attracted to one another. And I'm saying to myself, Emma, you got no worries. You are a beautiful girl. Him, on the other hand, I don't know. I don't think Connor is all that. But then their conversation goes into the whole, the children thing. And he's saying like it would be tough if he wasn't able to have children. And he knows for sure, even though with her experience, or even with her experience, that she would be a really good mother. And that she is his number one. But like Mike, I think he is not pulling the trigger on her and still kind of holding back a little bit and really kind of like putting maybe more into his basket with Brianna is because she is not 100% sure about the children's situation. So then we get Connor and Brianna in their day. And he's like, "What should I call your father? Should I call him G-Man or some other name?" And she's like, "No, call my dad G-Man." And then they go in and they talk about their parents and about them knowing about the experiment. And she said that she told her parents, she first told her mom, and then she told her dad, and then she said that they were really excited. And then he says that he didn't tell his parents until 2 weeks until he went. He didn't tell his parents until 2 weeks before he left for the experiment, and they were really shocked. Like, "What are you? Like, where are you going?" And then they decide to binge watch the show. And then his father called him, was like, "Do you know that you can't see the person that you're gonna marry?" And he's like, "Yeah, Dad, I know that. And did you know that they have to go into your house?" And he's like, "Yeah, Dad, I knew that." And he was like, "In your garage?" And he's like, "Listen, if she don't want to marry about a little bit of mess in my garage, then like she ain't it. And so then they chuckle a little bit, and then he says that, right before he left, he received 3 letters from his mom, and one of the letters was wishing him, or actually a note wishing him a happy birthday. And then the other notes was like, how proud she is of him. But then he goes in a little deeper about his mom, and he says, my mom was a receptionist. And then, she called me the other day and said she was being, promoted to a data analyst. And he was like, yes, yes, my mother at 50. And I had to rewind back and I said, 50? Well, how old is Tyler? How old is Connor? If his mother is 50. I thought Connor was like in his like early 30s. And I was like, maybe she had him super young. But then I said to myself, when I was 30, my mother was 54. So yeah, that kind of adds up. That generation, that she technically would be she would technically be Generation X. Oh my God. She's Generation X. I was thinking about baby boomers, but baby boomers, they had their kids pretty early. My mother started having kids at 22. Her and my dad had my brother at 22, me at 24, and they had my little brother at 34. So yeah, that's about right, right? So then, he says that when it comes to his relationship, Brianna, it feels very normal. And he says that he feels like normal is underrated. And that's what people should strive for. I guess people are striving for this extravagant, crazy life, but normalcy is underrated. And that's what he really looks for. And then he goes on and he tells Brianna that like he's pretty much all in with her. And when I tell you I'm shocked, I am shocked. I thought that he would have chose Emma over Brianna, but baby, he is like, nope. He is more into to Brianna than Emma, and she's like, you know what we got to do, and I'll see you tonight. And I'm like, hoo hoo. We about to have a breakup. So then it cuts to Alex and Ashley getting ready to meet each other. She is like, people call me Barbie. I'm looking for my Ken. I think I found my Ken. He is excited to see her, but then he also says some things that was really questionable. And you guys, I tried to wrap my head around what he was trying to say and really break it down. It was just so confusing to me. It was just like, oh, when they marry, when soccer, athletes, they marry their wives, and when they 35 and they retire and they looked at their wife and he's like, you know what, you ain't the one for me. And they realize they break up, and I'm just like, what the fuck is he talking about? Like, it was just very confusing. So then the doors open, and these two, baby, when I tell you the sex chemistry was just like, it just oozed out of them. When I tell you they got together and they was making out. He was like, ooh, yes, like this is what I'm talking about. This is what I like. He gets on his knee. He's like, will you marry me? She's like, yes. And they just continue to kiss. He brings her, he sits her down. He looking at her. He rubbing her and stuff. She rubbing him. She's like, well, this is what you like. Is this what you want? He's like, oh yeah. She's like, did you think I was a brunette? He was like, no. And he's like, I'm glad you were blonde, which I was kind of figuring. I was like, I think he's the type of dude that likes more blondes, and he's looking at her eyes, and he's like, "Oh, you got beautiful eyes," and she's like, "Oh, it's green," but I think she said when she gets depressed or some shit like that, they turn gray. He's like, "No, I hope they stay green." So then he's like, "You want some champagne?" They get up, they go to his area. This man, they are making out, y'all. They are going in. They are going in, and he grabs her neck. She's like, "Oh, you grabbing my neck already?" And I was like, ooh, yeah, you could tell he liked to get in it. He said he liked to be talked through it. I could see it, girl. I don't know about him being your husband. I really am questioning mark him, or I should say, well, y'all can see it questioning mark him. But baby, have a good time in Mexico with him. Have a good time in Mexico. That's all I got to say, because that man is fine as hell. So anyway, so we get Chris and Brianna in their date, and she sits there and she's like, Chris, I don't want to have this conversation, but I just have to have it. She says, I have stronger connections with other people, and I don't think this is going to work out. He's like, oh my God, I came here to have the same conversation with you. And she's like, what? He's like, yeah. He said, I made my decision last night. And she's like, can I guess who the person you have the connection with? And he's like, yeah, sure. She's like, Jessica. And he's like, yeah. She's like, oh my God, I love her. She's amazing. Blah, blah, blah. And then that's when they date ends and they separate. She's more focused on Connor and he's going to be focusing on Jessica. So now we get the conversation of the night, and I am shocked. Okay. So we get Emma and Connor. First, Emma is just like, she is convinced that Connor is her one. She is into this guy or whatever. Brianna comes in the quarters and she sits next to Emma. I think Emma's eating like hot Cheetos or some shit like that. And she's like, I have to be honest who I'm have my connections with, because if I don't be honest with my connections, I could lose them. And I'm like, girl, you already lost him, little do you know. So then she goes into her pod date with Connor, and she is telling him she's very open with Connor. She finally lets her wool down. She's open with him, and she's like, you're my number one. Like, I can see a future with you, blah, blah, blah. And he's just sitting there like, oh my God, because he know he's going to break up with her. And he's telling her like, listen, you were my number one before, but that quickly changes. And now, like, pretty much he has a new number one, and she is gut wrenched, and she's just like, okay. And she's really trying to really express her feelings with him because she really doesn't want to lose him. And he's just sitting there and he's just like, oh God. And then you could tell like Emma's just like, you know what, let me take the reins of this. And she takes on and she's like, so like, who is it? What's your decision? And that's when the episode ends. Baby, this is where the drama's coming, and this is what I'm here for it. What are your thoughts on this particular episode? Let me know down below in the comment section. Like if you like this video. If you have yet to subscribe and you've been watching my videos, I don't know what you're doing, but you need to click that subscribe button. Come on now, because we gotta push these videos out to other people. Come on, share the love. And yeah, I'll see you guys in episode 4. That's it for today's tea on Pam Unfiltered. If you love the drama, the gossip, and the real talk, hit that button, like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. I'll see you in the next one.